Yeah.
Will you tell me a nap time story?
Well, like, what kind of story do you want to hear, Joey? Like, Princess Leia, I don't know, like Harry Potter. I don't know. What do you want to hear? Like, Sleeping Beauty?
I want to hear about water.
Really? That's a scary one.
I know.
Are you sure you're old enough to handle it?
Rude.
Well, I don't know, like, I guess, but I don't want your mom calling me because you have nightmares.
I'm 18.
Okay. Long, long ago, back in 1948, all the countries were having a meeting, and they called themselves the United Nations. They were together. They got together to prevent any more wars from happening. But the richest and strongest countries made a decision that day, a decision that would change the world forever. They decided that water is a good and not a right. Now as you, little girl, know very well, we need water. We can't live without it. How would you feel if someone told me you didn't have enough money for water?
That's silly, Matt. Water comes from the tap. You can't charge people for something that's already in their house.
Oh, but it's not in our house, my dear. Don't you know about the water cycle?
Of course I do, Nat. It rains, and then the water goes into the ocean, and then it goes back into the clouds, and then it rains again.
That's right, but in some places, it doesn't rain anymore.
Really?
Well, you know all those bottles of water that your mother keeps buying?
Yeah.
At the grocery store? Well, that water comes from all around the world, but when we bottle it, it takes it out.
Really?
Yeah, and even sometimes big companies take over large supplies of water, leaving the ecosystems dry of all water.
What? You mean they own it?
Yes, Joey. Companies build and take the flowing water from the rivers and bottle it for their own profit.
How can we let companies do this?
Because people like your mother vote politicians who care more about the money in their pockets than the water in our river.
That's horrible, Nat.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy that you're getting an interest in this, Joey. Hey, do you want to watch a movie before your nap?
Is it Lord of the Rings?
No, it's not quite that boring. It's a movie about water, featuring a little person we call Becky and Nat.
Oh, bottled water. It's so easy. You just walk into a store, spend $1, and walk out with the refreshing beverage.
But do you know the environmental and social When bottled, fresh water becomes a non-renewable resource, which means it comes out of the natural water cycle.
Yeah, I heard that excess pumping of water is rapidly depleting Earth's natural water supply.
Yeah, currently we're pumping 15 times more water than is being replenished. Giant sinkholes are emerging due to the overpumping of groundwater. Mexico City sits atop a large freshwater aquifer, which has been pumped so much that the city is literally sinking in upon itself. Also, pumping and bottling fresh water removes the most essential component from many ecosystems. Furthermore, when bodies of water are drained, it causes the surrounding soil to dry up, thus leading to erosion of the soil and making land virtually unable to support any life, destroying fertile lands. While making bottled water, a huge amount of fossil fuels have to be burnt in order to produce it. Fossil fuels are required to manufacture the plastic bottles and to transport and pump the water. Some corporations have privatized water, placing it under the ownership of shareholders and causing many devastating social consequences. In some places the water is privatized, people get charged for merely turning on the tap, even though no water comes out. So next time you go to buy a bottle of water, think about the cost, the real cost, and maybe you'll think twice about buying that bottle of water.
That was a great movie, Nat. So much more interesting than Lord of the Rings.
I know, right? Well, now that you know all about water, can you go to bed?
Yeah.
take your nap, and then I'll wake you up from time for Jeff's class.
Okay.
Okay, good night, Joey.
Night, Nat. But where will my goldfish live?